took his own life. He had done 3 combat tours between Iraq and Afghanistan, and he was back here in the States. He was taking some leave. We'd actually invited him and his wife, who I understand they were having some difficulties, to attend the PRNR retreat cruise. They weren't able to make it, but there was a Facebook post by his father saying, "Great spending time with you, son. Uh, get back to Fort Bliss in great shape and serve this country." Well, after that, he took his own life. And Doc, it just floored me, because we're finding these are really hitting close to home, and it is an epidemic. And Glenn, you had a question that I think leads into everything we want to talk about.
Yeah, it seems to me, Doc, that in the military community of suicides, unfortunately, that there doesn't ever, well, not ever, but most of the time there's no suicide note. And I was wondering if you think that's true, and if so, is there significance to that?
I think there is some significance. We can, as you so honorably talked about our older warriors, we say old warriors never die; they just fade away. And we've got a long history with the warriors, but to see these younger warriors leaving at this rapid rate of 22 and more a day by suicide, and you're absolutely right, Glenn. You don't often see a suicide note because the person is either very despondent and unable to write one, or it is a rather impulsive act. And the intensity of combat, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how this PTSD affects combat veterans. Initially, when you go into combat or you experience a trauma, you often heard from all of the mental health professionals that PTSD is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. And sometimes that's a bit of a misnomer, because you think, well, oh, this is normal, and I should be just handling it as if it was normal. The unfortunate thing is you can't have that normal reaction to an abnormal situation over and over and over and over again. It wears you out.
Wears you out mentally and even physically.
It sure does, and we start to see some of the physical implications as well. What happens is you're in constant fight or flight, and many of you know what that's like from having had panic attacks or anxiety attacks. Your adrenal glands are stimulated by your brain when you're in a threatening environment. And we know our warriors with multiple combat tours are frequently in threatening environments, and when that happens, your adrenal glands release adrenaline. And when they repeatedly release adrenaline and cortisol, those chemicals are not made to be running through your body constantly. And so they break down things, and I can actually predict the medical outline of an individual who's been exposed to combat. It's going to have impact in a variety of ways on your physical body.
Well, that makes perfect sense, and it really hasn't been revealed or illuminated enough that they're on constant alert, and you're going to have a breakdown, whether it's a physical or mental. You just can't keep up with that state. And then we've heard stories of when they come back after their combat deployments, how everything slows down to a crawl, and that kind of aligns itself with what you're saying, right?
It does. It's so difficult for them to reintegrate because they're not stimulated at that high level. Subsequently, you'll see a lot of our veterans go out and seek stimulus of their own. And the stimulus may not always be so good. It may be stimulus that involves getting into fights. It may be stimulus that involves conflict in a relationship. It may be stimulus that results in self-medication with alcohol, with drugs, and with other things. So what we want to do is we want to employ constructive techniques that help to reduce that intensity of that stimulation and help to reintegrate that individual back into society.
Well, give us some examples of the tools that you have available in your practice that help make that happen.
Well, some of the tools we use, one of the things that happens when a brain is constantly being stimulated, whether it be by combat or anything else, is we produce a brain wave called beta and high beta. And when we have high beta and beta going on in our brain, it is that fight or flight response. So we have some ways in which we can actually reduce that beta, and we have something called alpha stim. This little tiny instrument
Wow, and I can personally attest to Alpha STEM. So can all the warfighters and even family members that have attended PR&R retreats with AVET Project. And that is one heck of a different type of treatment that doesn't come out of a bottle. You don't shake pills out of that. But I'm just curious, because this is Suicide Prevention Month, September. We're coming to a close on this. We're talking with Dr. Scott Fairchild in Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country. There are other methods that you employ other than Alpha STEM, and I want to talk about that a little more. But give me another example of something that is effective that's not necessarily pharmacological.
Another example might be the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Now that is a mouthful, and so we refer to it as EMDR, the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and that's been around for about 15 or so years, maybe more than 15 years, maybe about 20 years. And I remember going to the first conference with Francine Shapiro, who founded this technique, and there were about 100 of us there as therapists using it. There are now 132,000 EMDR therapists around the world, largely because it's an effective technique. We can actually measure it and see the difference. It involves the eyes moving and following fingers or a light with your eyes. And in doing so, it kind of, in my perspective, it disables the defenses. And subsequently, the emotion connected to these bad events can come up. It can be processed and it can be done. We need to take care of it. Otherwise, I was quoted on the front page of the New York Times one time as PTSD is kind of a pay me now or pay me later. If you don't deal with it, it'll sneak up and grab you in the butt, and it will make you pay later, either physically or emotionally.
And Doc, I know you talked on the show last time, I believe it was, about something children like to do with crayons as being an effective treatment modem, and I wonder if you might mention something in that regard.
Absolutely. Things that slow down your beta, things that calm you down. And Glenn, we're talking about coloring books, and you're saying, wait a minute here. What am I going to do with playing with coloring books? But things that I call it, might be coloring therapy. When you're out there doing fishing, or you're out there vacuuming in the old days when we had to vacuum the pool, I used to call it pool therapy or fishing therapy. Things that you can do that really don't require a lot of thinking. They're kind of, they're just kind of routine things. And while you're doing that, your brain in the background can be processing some of this stuff. So whether it's fishing therapy, whether it's, even people getting together as groups to go out singing or go out doing things, dancing, whatever it might be, things that reduce the beta in your brain, that reduce the anxiety and tension, things that are worry-free. And let me tell you, a good fishing hole and a pole and some bait is kind of worry-free. You just kind of go out there and let your worries go.
That's a good point. So the beta waves, they're only bad if they're the predominant activity. Is that right?
Well, if there are too many beta waves, right, in any of the waves in your brain, you can have too many or too little. Say, for example, if you have too few beta, we see that frequently in ADHD, where individuals don't have enough beta waves, and subsequently they have a difficulty learning. Things don't stick. The unfortunate thing on the other side, with PTSD, you have too many beta waves, and things stick too long. You overlearn, you learn too well how to survive in that combat environment, and you can't unlearn it when you come back to your normal society.
And I back to the eye movement, whatever the rest of that long word was.
Desensitization, reprocessing, EMDR.
Obviously, it works because that you're throwing it out there as an effective treatment modality, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I've never heard of the VA using that. Have you any information about VA using that kind of treatment?
Well, the National Institute of Health about 8 to 10 years ago did a little study, and the only thing they came up with that they thought was effective was cognitive behavioral therapy, and I call it snake in your lap therapy, or the desensitization therapy, where they actually put you in the face of the trauma and make you tell the story 30 or 40 times over, and then they say you're supposed to be better after that. Most of the guys who come to me after that desensitization therapy have told me that after about 30 sessions of telling the horrible story about all they've seen in improvement is that they can now tell the story without sobbing or crying. But when we do EMDR with them, they report that they've actually been lifted up the emotion, and that is so important, is to release that emotion connected to it. And I'll give you an example. When I was in my parachute accident, I would think about it, would raise the hair on the back of my neck when I was entangled and falling to my death. But once I did EMDR with it, and it lasted about 20 minutes on a stage in front of about 400 people, I was being used as a demonstrator. But once that was done, I can now talk about it, and I remember all the details, but they don't have that emotional valence. It doesn't incapacitate me emotionally.
Yeah, and that's so. I'm going to take that as no. You don't know if the VA uses that at all, or you haven't heard of it, and
They don't.
okay, then it seems to me if there's. Excuse me a second. It seems to me then that if anybody from the VA is listening out there, maybe you put that in a suggestion box or something.
EMDR.
Yeah.
And I can personally attest to it. And you can go to now you practice at Baytree Behavioral Health here on North Wickham in Melbourne. How can people get a hold of you and the website where they actually can take a look at some videos that show EMDR at work?
That is correct. They can reach us at BaytreeBehavioralHealth.com or give us a call at area code 321-253-8887, and we'll be happy to help our veterans as well as their family members. It's important to understand that the techniques we use, like alpha stem, EMDR, brain retraining, QEEG, they have all been proven scientifically. They are all things that we can actually see changes in the brain after doing these techniques.
What's that QEEG? Describe that for a moment.
Yeah, the neat thing about QEEG, it stands for quantitative EEG. When you get your heart rate done with an EKG, they can see how your heart's doing.
Sure.
Well, the EEG, electroencephalogram, tells you how your brain's doing, and it's the instrument we use to measure those waves I was talking about, delta, theta, alpha, and beta. That sounds like a fraternity, but delta is your sleep wave. Theta is refers to your creative thinking, your daydreaming. Alpha is our calm, relaxed, and able to function and focus and work. If we measured your waves right now and my waves, we'd be in alpha. We'd be calm and functioning and talking and doing well. And then theta is our learning waves, our ability to learn. We can either have too few and have things like ADHD and attention, or we can have too many and have things like PTSD. So that's an oversimplification of it, but that is how we function. We measure these with a QEEG, a quantitative EEG, that tells us exactly how that entire brain is working, and it gives us clues to what diagnosis is there. And then we can retrain the brain. We can actually change those brain waves.
And that's an important tool that you employ in your practice of Baytree Behavioral Health. And everybody that's listening, wherever you are in the country, if you have any question about that, obviously you can go to BaytreeBehavioralHealth.com, right? I got the website. Okay.
There's some videos on there to demonstrate. We do something called brain retraining. So if we have a little bit too much beta, or if we don't have enough beta, we can go in and just put connectors on the brain. They don't infuse any current. They just actually measure your current. And then we have you look at a computer screen and follow specific programs that allow you to actually retrain your brain so that it'll actually produce a healthy brainwave instead of the high beta or the low beta.
So like someone would exercise to get their body healthy and strong, this has the potential and in fact does help the brain overcome things.
It does. We've had so many people who have reported good results, and it sustains itself too. Now, once in a while, we'll get somebody who comes in after a year for a little booster session, but for the most part, it really sustains itself over time. And it's like my good friend Dr. Daniel Lehman out in California would say, change your brain and you change your life because your brain is in control of everything you do.
Well, yeah, and for all my brother and sister veterans listening out there and their spouses and families, you're hearing that there are effective treatments for post-traumatic stress disorder, and I presume some of these would also apply to traumatic brain injury. So if you're going somewhere and getting treatment that consists solely of sitting around in groups every now and then, there are more effective ways in treatment out there, and you should seek those out. It would be my advice.
Yeah, and also just the pill therapy. I don't know what better describer I can come up with that, but our producer Kim is pointing to herself saying, me, and it is true. These alternative treatments that you employ at Bay Tree Behavioral Health Doc helped my wife cope with a very personal tragedy that could have taken her own life. So the effectiveness of it, believe me, I can attest to it from a personal side for sure. But I got to ask you something, Doc. We were talking a little bit during the break about accidental overdose and medication reminders and things like that. Can you really tell between an overdose and an accidental overdose?
Well, it's very difficult to tell, and I had a good friend and fellow veteran who we lost to an accidental overdose of his pain medication, and again he'd gone to the VA every day of the week to try and get hospitalized for it, and on a Monday they told him that yes, they'd find a program, and then on Wednesday they told him, well, I didn't think they could find a program, and on Thursday he fell there and hit his head again, and they sent him home with more pain medications, and then on Friday they told him, sorry, he was too suicidal to put into a pain medication program, and unfortunately the following Wednesday they found him dead in his home from too many pain medications. So again, when somebody has pain and they're taking their pills for pain, sometimes they push it over that edge, and so it's difficult to determine. Now, I'm not saying that medications are not appropriate at any time. There are certain times that you need to have medications. Having gone through the psychopharmacology fellowship, my thoughts are always that the best amount of medication is the least amount of medication necessary to do the job, and preferably working towards zero if you can. So it is important. And for our listeners out there, if you want a serious education on over-medication and what it does to you, you can go to the internet and you can watch the Hidden Enemy documentary. It is amazing. It traces the history of psychiatry. It accounts for why we're losing 22 veterans a day. It talks about the multiple medications that are prescribed one on top of the other. And it's a pretty, it is a bit dramatic, but it is pretty well researched and well done. That's the Hidden Enemy documentary. You can find it with any browser.
Excellent. And Doc, I also want to get this in there because we're always running out of time. We go, anyway, listen, the Pause for Veterans is a program here locally, and I know there's a lot of folks out there doing great work with service dogs, helping vets. But one thing we went to class with this last week, and want to really thank Crystal for offering this, but Pause for Vets does medication reminder training for the dogs as well. And that's got to be an important aspect, right?
That's so important because a lot of times when people do have appropriately prescribed medication, they forget to take them. And so having that therapy dog to remind you is so very important. And I noticed therapy dogs are getting more incorporated into our world. One of my veterans sent me a picture of his Great Dane, I believe, huge dog. And he sent a picture of the big dog talking to the pilot in the cockpit on a national airplane.
That's beautiful. Well, Doc, I know you're on the road, and thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country. It's Dr. Scott Fairchild from Bay Tree Behavioral Health. You want to definitely check him out. Safe travels, Doc. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah,
It's been my pleasure.
yeah. Goodbye, Doc. And again, folks out there, he's listed information for you that shows there is hope and there is treatment that works for
Get
PTSD
your slogan
and
in about
TBI.
suicide again. Come on.
Yeah, suicide is actually a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Permanent solution to a temporary problem. This too will pass. And we never finish the show without this information.
For veterans experiencing crisis, or even their family members or friends, call the Veterans Crisis Line, 1-800-273-8255. Press 1. That's 1-800-273-8255. 8255, press 1. And as always, don't forget, think a bet.
Excellent. Good episode.
Well done.
Right there.